He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
All right, welcome to the Marlow Show. I got good news for you today. The era of Marlow and Friends begins. Emma Jo Morris is here, and this is a good excuse for me to say I'm heading out on vacation on Thursday. So recording this on Tuesday. So you will have terrific shows while I'm gone. I have pre-taped a lot of shows. I'm willing to come back and do shows from vacation if there is essential breaking news, but I've done some great interviews with some of the stars of the Marlow universe of online content. All of your favorites, you'll get those, and we'll have a couple of guest hosts. One will be Matt Boyle, and one will be Emma Jo Morris. Emma Jo, famous for Laptop from Hell Scoop, and from this show, being one of the guests I've had the most, if not the most, at this point. She's also joining me today because her area of expertise, Hunter Biden, and my area of expertise, the two biggest Hunter experts, maybe that there is. Maybe your friend Miranda as well in your post, but that's about it. And
she can compete with us now.
I got to say though that I was having a blast with that. So we'll get to that. But Emma, we got to catch up on a few other things. I want to talk about New York. I want to talk to you about you got a new podcast. I want to hear how that's going. So let's just get into it. So tell me about the new show you got going.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me for the 19th time. I think I've been on more shows than you've actually had of the Alex Marlow Show. But
well, you know what's funny is that you've been on the show more often than I've heard the show. So that's not true. I have to hear most of the shows. I have to play it back. Make sure I don't make any mistakes. No, but Emma, just to be clear, she's on today. She's also going to host one day next week. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be great. So I've not done a fill-in host.
Coordinating that with Misty. So it's a surprise to the audience. It's a surprise to me, and you'll see me when you see me. But,
so I can coach you up right now. So you get your soundboard, you get your clips. Like for example, if you feel like playing this clip of Greta Thunberg, then you could play this.
How dare you?
Just like you can have that just there for you. If you want to play this Bernie Sanders clip, you can play this one.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
Are you supportive of these onesies? One of the most absolute classics. I've even got this Joe Biden one of him wandering off in the jungle that's available.
So let's preserve this secret place.
Now we're talking.
We lost so much.
For the benefit of
Look at
all
what was
humanity.
taken from us.
Thank you very, very much.
Look at what was taken from us.
I miss him so bad. I miss him so bad. I'm thinking about him every day. He's wandering off in the jungle. For those of you who are not getting, there's nothing over there where he's walking. He's just wandering straight into the jungle. The onesie clip got cut off too. Check this one out.
Are you supportive of these onesies?
That's right. That's Bernie Sanders. Should have been president. Should have beaten Hillary Clinton. Are you supportive of these onesies? So you'll have that available, and then news clips, which we'll play later. And you just click them and you play them when you want. You can have guests. You can invite any of your favorite guests. I'm a free speech guy, so
I've already arranged. Arranged.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
But I'll keep it a surprise. Maybe I'll text it to you, but I'll keep it a surprise to the audience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, great.
It's a good old band back together on the Alex Marlow Show. I think everybody will be pleased. One of my favorites. I know he's one of your favorites.
Good.
Surely an audience favorite. God knows he's hosted Breitbart News daily enough.
Well, I'm curious how it goes just because I want to. I have not done a fill-in host. I've always just pre-tape shows, get them in the can, but I want to be able to do this where I've trust the show with capable people, and I think the audience will trust me and trust who I select. So you're going to give it a whirl, Matt's going to give it a whirl, and we'll see how that goes, and then I've got another bunch of interviews in the can for all of you. So it'll be good. But tell me about your show, Emma. We got derailed. I did that.
Yeah, you're leaving your show in shaky hands. But my show's great. It's a show on Two-Way, which is Mark Halperin's podcast platform. Or it's not really podcasting, it's video. But what's special and what I love about the show, so the concept of it is that it has one person who represents each kind of major ideological position across America. It's supposed to feel like you're watching, Thanksgiving dinner with your extended family, where you have one person who's a progressive and one person who's kind of left-wing, but gets Trump and likes Trump. You have one libertarian who's obviously your cousin in college, establishment Democrat, and me, obviously, your humble conservative, maybe. And anyway, so we just kind of get together and talk about the news. It's once a week. It's on Thursday. But the thing that I really like about it, and that's unique about Two-Way as a platform, is that the audience can actually call in live during the show and it's on Zoom. So if you have the Zoom link, which they should really publicize more, I got to talk to Mark Halperin about that. But if you have the Zoom link, you can actually like beam in on video and talk to us and ask questions, or you can direct a question to one of us in particular, or yell at us or whatever. And it has that Rush feel, that talk radio feel, but obviously it's a video platform on YouTube. So maybe taking Rush into the future.
So this is really important, because I'll say this to the audience. One of the things that we hosts, we yearn for, is that connection with an audience. And it just feels much more abstract and removed in the taped podcast format than it does with live radio. It's just a fact. And I think some of the technology is available to do live chats and stuff like that. I'm not doing any of that. So I'm very interested to see how you're doing the live calls, because I definitely want to be able to do that one day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I don't know how the technology would work on something like this, but Two-Way's always been on Zoom. That was always his thing. Like, he really wanted to have that's why it's called Two-Way, to have a two-way conversation.
Right.
So it's always been hosted on Zoom. I actually, when I was just a plebeian who didn't have a show myself, I had called in a couple times to Mark Halperin's Two-Way. And it's fun. Like, I mean, I am me, so I don't find it that interesting to talk to me. But somebody like Mark, who has just been around forever, and he knows everybody, and he has so much knowledge. I mean, if you recall, he was actually the one who broke that Joe Biden was going to be dropping out.
Yeah, amazing story. Story of the year.
So he's like super plugged in, super knowledgeable, interesting guy, and so getting the opportunity to call in and talk is pretty awesome, especially if you don't work in politics yourself. It's like fun kind of access. So I like the concept. It's fun. I really like my co-hosts, and hopefully we do well. It's very young, but I have a great time with it. I think the chemistry is fun, and I hope it's interesting.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, that was the scoop of the election, that he called Biden dropping out. It was unbelievable. And he called it specifically. He said, it's going to happen on Sunday afternoon. And he said this on like Thursday morning. And I was like, really? And then it did. It literally happened exactly when he said. So very impressive. He's very well sourced. He is a big comeback, because he really got Me Too'd hard. And he kind of was one of the, he was the one guy in the prison who was like, hand out. It's like, yeah, I did that. Sorry. Like, my bad. And then he came all the way back. And I like the redemptive narrative.
It's a thing. It's like the Me Too thing. I mean, you know how I feel about it. Like, it got crazy. It was obviously a reaction to Trump. It was like a mass hysteria zeitgeist that was in a reaction to Trump. It was the rise of women or something. And it wrapped up a lot of people who you had, from Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby to a guy that made an inappropriate comment 20 years ago at a Christmas party. And it was very hysterical. Obviously, Kavanaugh was also at that time, and things got crazy, but it was, I don't know, I think it really harmed a lot of people who may have deserved it or may not have, and it didn't really matter. But somebody like Mark Halperin is just so talented. His story was like, I don't even remember exactly what the story was, but it wasn't anything very remarkable. It was definitely like 1,000 times less interesting or remarkable than Matt Lauer. And it just kind of faded away because
the Matt Lauer one was unbelievable. Like, that was where he could lock the door from his desk.
Like, you had people like that being grouped into people who like did something at a Christmas party that, like, upon reflection after 10 years, I didn't like that. Which I think was something more similar to what Mark went through. And it was like just such a railroad job. And somebody who's that talented, that knowledgeable, that sourced, and frankly, that valuable to, I think, the discourse, clearly, they come back. That's not going to stick.
I just really enjoyed that they spent a lot. There was a whole news cycle explaining why it was okay for Lauer to be able to lock the door from his desk. That was actually fine. Like, we're cool with that. We like that. Like, that's a good thing to have. Just really convenient. And it was.
Yeah, right. Sometimes
it wasn't a little rapey. Like, not a little bit. Like.
Sometimes you have to lock your office door, and like, you don't want to like walk over to it. So you need to have the button on your desk to remotely lock your door.
Hey, he's a big star. He needs his opportunities. So, all right. Well, we wish him the best. Okay. So that's good. So when do we get the show?
But yeah, anyway, yeah, I love it. So, it's just fun. Like, I mean, you know how it is for me. It's like, I can never pry myself out of media. So this has been something good that allows me to consistently keep up with the news, consistently give my take. just keep one foot in that world. And I think it's a world that I do truly belong in. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I'm having a fun time with it.
Good, great. Well, that's good. And feel free to plug away when you host my show next week. Okay, but so let's get into the news with you. I want to spend most of the time on Hunter, but I want to get your quick take on a couple other major narratives. I'm semi-obsessed with this clip. I played this on yesterday's show, but I got to play it again because I feel like this is just mind-blowing. I had to check the year that this is 2025 and not 2012. But this is Congresswoman Maria Salazar from the Miami area, who I labeled on Twitter Republican Univision. Like that's her district because that's where she was from. She's a Univision journalist. Let's hear her talk about amnesty.
We give them dignity. At some point in the future, another legislator will write another law to give them path to citizenship. Right now, what we need to do is to buy peace for these people, allow them to stay, to continue working, because they're needed. You see, what I'm trying to do is to bring some common sense, which is the least common of all senses, to this conversation.
Okay, so far, the big point I want to make is she's already said we're letting them stay now, but then we're doing the full-blown path to citizenship later. And she's just announcing it. That's the proverbial quiet part out loud, where it's like they're not supposed to say that out loud, are they?
We're going to do that next. No, we're not doing it this time. We're going to do it next. So it's not amnesty. I'm just looking up. Sorry if my eyes are darting around, if anybody is watching it on the video, because I'm just looking up Miami-Dade's election results from 2024 election. And I mean, Trump crushed Kamala Harris in that district. I don't know Salazar's specific district, but I'm pretty sure she is Miami. I can't imagine that her results in her district, if she's not, would deviate dramatically because she's obviously just right around it if she isn't at Miami proper. And it's like, girl, your district, like Trump beat Kamala Harris by 12 points in Miami on the promise of mass deportations. Mass deportations means mass deportations, not mass amnesty. And this woman has been so unhinged. I spiraled about her when the clip came out of her basically saying that it was God's will to do amnesty. I don't know if you saw that. I think you played it on your show. I'm pretty sure you did.
I probably did. Sounds like something I would play.
Yeah, where she says that God it was on the anniversary of Butler, and she said God saved Donald Trump, and that's the same God that illegals are praying to let them stay in the country. So that must mean. And anyways, she's psycho, totally pathetic proposition, ridiculous proposition, actually. The American people literally just voted on this. Not only did they just vote on this, but every single time there's a poll taken, when the Democrats are trying to put their finger up in the air to test the wind, no, people are actually becoming more and more radical on this issue. They want more and more immigration crackdowns, and amnesty is not there. So I don't know.
Let me run the clip out because I want people that they missed yesterday's show to hear the full breadth of the idiocy coming from the Republican establishment.
I know that someone from Miami could do it easily because, I was on Univision and I served that community for many years. Besides, now I'm representing some of their family members. It's easy. The economy needs them. They do not have a criminal record. They have not gone into trouble. They have been here for a long time. They have roots in the country. Let them stay. Don't give them any type of federal programs. And allow them to pay taxes, help the Social Security Fund, and let them stay and contribute with the economy with no criminal record. What is wrong with that? We need
them.
This reminds me too of another thing that really pissed me off about her and this whole thing. She said, her big thing of they've been in the country, it was 5 years. It was a 5-year minimum to have been in the country. That's what she calls they're here, they have roots here, 5 years. Are you kidding me? That is
and especially when the wait time to get a court date, if you get a notice to appear in court right now, is 3 or 4 years, and I bet it's really 10. So it's it's just everyone gets to stay. It's such a bad. It's a really clumsy hoax. This is when you're watching one of your kids, it's like a mystery show, but it's designed for 8-year-olds, so you can really figure it out quick, what's going on. Who the bad guy is right away. It's obviously you're just trying to get all the illegal aliens to stay because you're probably illegal alien. That's what all this is. You want them all here because you love illegal aliens. Like, that's your thing. You're an illegal alien person. You stand for the illegals. That's your deal, Maria Salazar. But
Yeah, no,
they're
it's incredibly, and by the way, it's just incredibly racist, just incredibly racist, just clearly pandering. She was talking about Univision and talking about like the Hispanic population that she represents, and then she is trying to group them in with illegal aliens. Obviously, the Hispanic population is totally unsupportive of that. The Hispanic population shifted dramatically toward Trump in the last election. Everybody in that, like, there is a large cohort of people within that population that are really excited about the deportations and are offended by the categorization that they share anything in common with illegals. And these people just show, it's always mask off. Every time they talk about it, it's mask off. I feel like there could be a smart way to have this conversation, but when you're talking about representing Hispanics, when you're talking about servicing the economy, it's like, try a little harder, at least. Try to convince me a little bit. Maybe I could be convinced. I don't know, but this is so stupid and frankly bigoted in a way.
Yeah, there is it's just the racial balkanization that all this fosters. It's just, but I just don't like the lying. Of course, you're going to get federal stuff. I talked about this a lot in yesterday's show, so I don't want to go through too much. But of course, you're getting federal benefits, and we don't need them. She needs that the prices stay low for construction in her area. Like that's all she wants, and to keep the nanny prices down. Like that's all she wants.
Hotels.
So. Very cynical. Okay, so the big news from today was Trump basically suggesting Barack Obama committed treason. I want your reaction here.
Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him. And Comey was there. And Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan. They were all there in a room. Right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold. And it was the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one look, he's guilty. It's not a question. I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it.
Okay, so he says treason. That's punishable by death. So pretty extreme rhetoric. But again, if Obama intentionally sabotaged his presidency by pushing the Russian collusion hoax, I mean, I'm interested. I'm interested in what is going to be I'm interested in what Trump has got to what investigations will lead to.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard actually used the same word. And she said like something like a treasonous conspiracy or something. Listen, I covered this story very intimately. I was at Hannity at the time that this was going down, which was like ground zero for breaking news on this. And it seems pretty serious. I think that we almost get desensitized to what went down then because there's so much talk about it. The things that you hear about it are so outrageous. They do sound treasonous. And yet there's obviously no justice. There's no process of justice for it.
Yeah.
So it starts to feel like sub-reality or like a conspiracy. But according to the facts that we know, it kind of looks like they concocted an intelligence operation to basically tie up Trump and such, or hopefully frame him
Well, what do you call that? We know that can't be legal. So what is the term for that illegal activity, which is clearly
what's
illegal?
the term for getting together with like the head of the CIA, the head of the DNI, and the head of what was Clapper, like NSA, and or maybe he was DNI. It was like Clapper, Comey, Brennan. What's the term for getting together with those three people as president, and selectively choosing intelligence that you know has problems or is straight up not true, as in the case of the Steele dossier? Getting warrants to spy on an opposing presidential campaign of the opposing party, and then when that candidate wins, then launching a operation in the media to make it appear as though that is a Manchurian candidate on behalf of Russia. What do you call that?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm curious where it goes, but I'm glad that he's on offense. It connects a lot with my work in Breaking the Law, which comes out in 2 weeks. I had a long talk with Charlie Kirk about this on his show earlier today. If people care about this, I did more detail there than I'll do here, but it's very connected to me because one of the big parts of the book is I draw clear conclusions by dot connecting that the lawfare against President Trump was coordinated from inside the Joe Biden White House. Full stop. Huge scandal. Everyone should be focused on this. And yet no one is, because no one's phrased it that way, I think. But it's very obvious if you look at the timelines and if you look at the strange meetings that were taking place at the White House, it was very obvious that what was going on was coordinating illegally lawfare throughout the various branches of the judicial system in order to go after Trump and his supporters. And it's the same stuff. So Joe Biden had that version with the lawfare, and Barack Obama had a version with the Russia collusion hoax. This is business as usual. Democrats trying to destroy by politics of personal destruction and character assassinations to try to beat Republicans. That is part of their toolkit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one thing to go into the media and like trash talk them, but it's kind of another thing to harness the security state and then point it at them and try to smear them that way. I mean, it's not smearing in that case, as I'm sure your book details. Like, Trump was facing 300 years in prison.
Yeah, and not to mention the cruel and unusual financial penalties, record financial penalties. Like, it's these stuff that, E. Jean Carroll asked for $5 million, and then they say, well, let's make it $95 million. It's like, what? Like, she didn't ask for that. Like, why? Because you're just trying to punish him.
Well, that's it. And what would have been the punishment? Like, imagine, like, what would have been the punishment if they had found a way to tell the story and make it stick that Trump had worked with Vladimir Putin to cheat in the presidential election? Like, is the punishment for that not, like, death?
Yeah, right, exactly. So isn't that what they talk about treason all the time with Trump? All the time they talked about treason, and now Trump's talking about treason. And I'm cool with it. I don't know if that's what it is, but we'll see. All right.
Well, I just hope that they actually do. Like, that was the thing that kind of upset me in when the 2016 term and the first term ended, was that they never saw through that process to hash it out, like, officially, like, in court, what happened, and to administer like some sort of like closure on that. Like, what happened? Why wasn't anybody held accountable for it? If there was nothing to hold anybody accountable for, can we know that? I mean, I don't need John Brennan to be a criminal, but tell me, because like, there was this thing put out that was like outrageous, and it would kind of be nice to get some information on that, like, definitively, and actually have a real process play out.
It'd be nice. So we're going to do it. Okay. So
we're going to do it.
So I want to get your take on Mamdani as our unofficial Manhattan correspondent for the show. But I want to do it by way of a segue.
All right. We know that good coffee is kind of easy to find. There's a lot of good coffee out there, but great coffee, that's a different story. And when I was introduced to Crockett Coffee, I knew this was something special. This is roasted to perfection in small batches on purpose by experts who love the taste of great coffee and are conscientious about how it's made and who's making it. It's roasted in our nation's heartland and it's delivered fresh to your home. When you enjoy Crockett Coffee, you're also supporting an anti-communist, pro-American brand of coffee founded by our friends Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, who are good broadcasters and are apparently dang good at making a cup of coffee as well. The perfect type of thing to sip at a I don't know, a mountain campfire, like a Western settler, or in your office while you're doing a podcast. It is just really high quality stuff. You guys know I'm a coffee snob, married to an Italian. I like to hit that dark roast. They also sent me some mild roast, which was delicious. They got a light roast. They got a decaf. They got a mushroom organic blend. That's the new hotness. They got K-Cups. Lots of different options for you. And part of your support goes to Tunnel to Towers Foundation, which is a great way to give back and remind people that Crockett Coffee, people there, they pledge to never forget. Easy. Go online, crockettcoffee.com. Crockett like it as in Davy Crockett. crockettcoffee.com. Use my first name, Alex. You get 20% off your first order. That's crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Alex, as the promo code for 20% off. Good people and a dang good cup of coffee. You guys know I would not endorse it if it wasn't quite delightful.
And I think when I play this clip, people will know exactly where I'm going to go with this. Check this out.
For Fire Aid, that star-studded concert that raised $100 million for wildfire victims. But where did all that money go? Investigative journalist Sue Pascoe has been digging for answers, and what she's discovered might just surprise you. And Sue Pascoe, she joins me now live on set. You are the editor of Circling the News.
Yes,
we can clearly see that. Thanks for the work that you're doing. So this is personal and professional for you because you lost your home in the Palisades fire, but that's not necessarily how this story landed in your lap. How did this all come to be?
A reader sent me a little note and said, I've never seen any fire aid money. How do I apply for fire aid money? And I thought, well, you know, I've never thought about that. There's 12,000 people, basically, 12,000 homes gone. Those people probably want to know where the money is. This will be an easy task to find out. So I contacted the Annenberg. They never responded.
And the Annenberg is
Foundation, because they are overseeing the wildfire funds, yes. So I emailed them several times. They never responded. I called them several times. They never responded. And finally, it was like almost 2 weeks later, a woman got back to me and she said, oh, I'm sorry for the delay. The person you need to speak to is Chris Wallace. He's a media spokesperson for wildfire funds. So I contacted Chris and I said, you know, victims want to know when they can get their money. Seems like a very simple question. He said, basically, they don't. All this money are going to nonprofits, and then nonprofits will take care of making sure the money's distributed. So I looked at.
Okay, so you get the picture. I keep going, but here's the point. There's no money going out for fire aid. So Gavin Newsom's going to South Carolina and running for president. And he had a natural disaster historic level in an iconic city, one of the iconic cities on earth, a city that's about to host the World Cup, a city that's about to host the Olympics. And they can't even get the celebrity showboats to get that money into the pockets of the victims. So we've got this experiment in socialism happening in LA, happening in California with the lawlessness and the open borders and the unusable school systems and the record taxes or the highest taxes in the country and levels of debt for some reason, because that record level of taxes doesn't even cover our bills. So we're already doing it out in California. And then people are like, oh, well, we gotta be careful about Bonnie because then we could see it in New York. It'll be a whole new thing. No, it won't be new. It'll be exactly what we have over here. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I've been hearing from various people actually, who are obviously like in the business community, in the corporate space, in Wall Street space, and they're kind of feeling like it's going to be similar to de Blasio in the sense that, like, well, okay, the perception of him among people in business, in corporate and finance, is that this guy is honestly an idiot. Not an idiot, I don't want to say that, but he has ideas about what he wants, but he has absolutely no idea how to do it. He has absolutely no idea how to implement it. I mean, granted, people are thinking that he'll end up hiring people who actually do know better, but in terms of him himself and a strategy to do what he says he wants to do, there's no concept. Obviously, he's never had a job. I don't know if the audience knows that or if you've talked about that on the show, but he has literally never had a job. He's like 30.
I don't think I said it in exactly that word. So how does he make a living? What does he do all day?
He's been on city council. And his parents are super wealthy. His mom is a big director, and his dad is a professor. So he is taken care of by his parents. He doesn't need a salary, and he's only been in politics for his whole career. So Anyway, he has never had a job. He's never actually tried to implement anything that he wants to do. He has no idea how he's going to do that, and that's clear to the people who he's talking to. Um, that said, so people are thinking that he's going to kind of be like the De Blasio administration, which obviously from Bloomberg to the end of De Blasio, the city like fell apart, obviously. And having that happen again, which is basically what do? Is they just grow the they grow the payroll of the city. So that's why, and I'm sure California is doing the same thing, which is why you collect record taxes and then still somehow end up in debt, is because the city is just hiring on like rapid clip. And why are they doing that? Because they're trying to regulate industry, because that's how they think that they make the world equitable, is they produce more and more hurdles for businesses to operate, and in doing so they try to make even out the playing field. What actually ends up happening when that happens is people basically offload assets, and the thing that's really scary about Mamdani is that he does seem to know this much, that if he can create more and more red tape, especially for landlords who, because of de Blasio and his strategy on this, landlords at this point in New York are really like not making money. So rents are going up and up, but those rents are going to pay for landlords to adhere to regulations, not into their pockets. So if
Wow.
Mamdani were to continue on that trajectory, basically what he's going to do is he's going to create an environment where it's basically impossible and obviously not profitable, but the opposite. It becomes a money drain to own property in New York. And so people are going to just try to basically offload those assets. And I think Mamdani, which he, not, I think again, like he said this, what he hopes to do is to grow the portfolio of the city. So he's going to use regulation to basically make it impossible to be a landlord. Then he is going to have the city try to buy those assets because he wants to create like communal living spaces, which he's talked about. Um, and obviously what this all is trying to create a socialist utopia in New York. But the thing is, like, I don't know, like we like joke like, haha, let's show the world or let's show America what it's like to have a democratic socialist. New York isn't just any place. And I think if you push New York off a cliff, even just to make a point, uh, I don't know what the ramifications of that will be, but they could be pretty serious.
Well, but I mean, can New York help itself? Because the Democrats nominate this guy, and then are the other three guys who are in the race, are they able to get it together to say that we're going to lose the city if all three of us run? I'm talking about Curtis Sliwa, who I've never met. I know he's done some good stuff. But Andrew Cuomo, who is detestable, and Eric Adams, who's not a particularly likable guy. I mean, he's by far the best of the group. It feels like for me, because it feels like he could win.
Yeah.
But can they get it together, or are they just going to sacrifice New York?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like it so sucks. So you have Curtis Sliwa, who has run for mayor like 16 times. He never cracks like 13% of the vote. He always runs as a Republican. He's the guardian angels guy. I don't know if the audience knows a ton about him, but whatever. He's like a piece of furniture in New York, and he's run for mayor like 5 times. Never gets anywhere. He's always sure that this is going to be the time that everybody wakes up. Nobody ever wakes up. Not at least to Curtis Sliwa. Then
I give him credit in a way. I mean, it feels like some sort of narcissistic personality deal, but I mean, in a way, I would give up very easily. I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know if I would even try, but good for him. I'm gonna tell my kid about him and tell her to try to be like
never
that.
gave up.
Never give up. Yeah, exactly. So there's that whole situation. Then you have Adams, who he's probably my preferred choice just because he basically runs the city on autopilot. I think there's like 3 or 4 people who are like mayor in the Adams administration, who are just kind of keeping the train on the tracks, which is fine. I mean, life isn't amazing, could be better, but it's fine. The thing is just like Adams just has a stench around him because of this corruption thing, which I think again was not fair, kind of crazy. Probably political. If you recall, Adams was the first mayor to say, like, I cannot absorb 10 million illegals into my city. Please stop.
A good call in retrospect.
Yeah. So not a crazy thing to say, in my opinion, but all of a sudden the FBI is like down his throat. So that has tarred and feathered him. He doesn't really have good numbers in New York, even though, like I said, like the city is basically fine under his leadership. And then you have Cuomo, who is a sexual harasser slash murderer, but he claims he's just Italian. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah. No, he pled Italian, which is just, it's so offensive. It's
I'm just
when he
Italian.
was getting accused of hugging too much and touching, it was like, this is how I relate to people because I'm Italian.
Yeah.
I got, my wife's family's Italian. I've never seen any behavior that remotely reminds me of anything Cuomo was accused of.
Yeah, no. So you don't get sexually harassed by your father-in-law every time you go over for Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Yeah. He was talking about generational and cultural shifts that he didn't appreciate.
Yeah.
But he was accused by 11 women. And he basically said he was accused because he was too friendly because of his Italian heritage.
Yeah, I know. Iconic, honestly, amazing answer. Best answer I think I've ever heard to a Me Too accusation. But anyway, so, and I love that she was
Do you know what's awesome though is that you would see these. I remember this is all coming back to me. You would see these news articles where you would get people who would allegedly represent some Italian interest group who you've never heard of, who then would come to his aid and be like, "Yes, Italians are more affectionate." The governor's right. Like they tried to defend him. There's all these women are accusing him of all these different things. Like, yes, we Italians were very handsy. Like what? Who are these people and why are they allowed to speak on behalf of all Italians?
Yeah, no, New York politics is super fun. Gotta love it. And this was, by the way, after the nursing home scandal where he was sending like infected patients to like sleep in the same bed all together as like 98-year-old grandmas. He was great. So it's funny because despite the fact that I think he's actually definitely the most odious candidate in the race, obviously even more than Mamdani, at least Mamdani, there's something kind of cool and sincere about him and he hasn't like, killed anyone's grandparents. He is doing the best Cuomo. And Sliwa and Adams refuse to get out because all this is like these like New York guys, like just I don't know, in like some sort of like weird like.
Do you remember when Cuomo won an Emmy for those press conferences where he sold his worst in the nation coronavirus policy to the public, and then they gave him an Emmy, and then he called the Emmy buxom? And that was one of the things that was said about him, which to me is more offensive than some of the attacks on women. Sorry. I apologize for that, but that's just how I feel. Just ogling the Emmy is just, that is a sick freak who would do that. That is a tell. In poker, we call that a tell.
I'm personally more offended by cringe than almost anything else. So
pretty much. That's kind of where I'm at. And he called the Emmy buxom, and he got an Emmy. They gave that guy an Emmy, and we're going to keep elevating him. It just doesn't. It's just so offensive. It's just everything about Cuomo is offensive. But Mamdani does this obvious stuff that works. So Mamdani, I played this video yesterday of him responding to online trolls, and he's smiling, he's making fun of them, and it was very good messaging. And then he does things like in that mayoral debate where they asked him which foreign country, they asked all the candidates, which foreign country will you visit first? And Cuomo says Israel, and all these other countries say like, I'm Jamaican, so I'm going to Jamaica. And then Mamdani said, I'm not leaving the city, I'm going to be the mayor of New York, I'm going to work on that. Just like, obviously that's the answer. Why is this the only guy who gets that answer?
Well, that's the thing about progressives that's so frustrating is they actually diagnose problems right. Like Mamdani running an entire campaign talking about how rent is too high and the cost of living in New York is too high is so genius, so obvious, like total layup. That is obviously the biggest problem in my neighborhood in New York. Like, I live in Brooklyn, by the way. I don't exactly live in like some sort of like, I mean, I guess it's a desirable area, but I mean, you get a one-bedroom apartment for $4,500 minimum in my neighborhood, and I live like in like Bedside, Clinton Hill, like Fort Greene area. So, if you're talking about downtown or you're talking about Midtown, you're paying at least $5,000 for a one bedroom. That's outrageous. That's insane. And I don't even know what the other guys were running a campaign on, frankly. Mamdani was the only one who was like, here's an obvious problem that's plaguing the city, and I'm just going to talk about it. And even if my ideas about it are wrong, my solutions are not feasible. I have no idea how to implement any of the policies I'm talking about. I think people really appreciated the fact that he actually saw that because everybody is dying on rent prices and dying on food prices. Everybody.
You know what's interesting is that this gives me this is not my current life. I like being editor of Breitbart, I like the idea of building a talk show brand. I like that idea. But in a future life, if I ever want to do politics, and maybe my foray will be I'll run for mayor of LA, but I'll only run on the airport being the worst in the world. And I'll just say, I got one task. I'm going to fix the airport. And then whenever anyone asks me a tough question, I'm going to say, hey, I'm not here to answer that. I'm here to fix the airport. And if you elect me, we're going to make this airport work. And I feel like that it'll just make the vibes in the city so much better if we had a good airport. We had the worst airport on the planet. And I feel like that you find that lane. I don't even think I have to have a solution. I just have to declare I'll be the one to fix it. And I could get through.
Well, that's exactly what he did. And like, I think people appreciated it when everybody around him was just like saying like platitudes. I mean, honestly, I don't even know what I didn't see anything from Cuomo. I didn't see anything from Cuomo attacking Mamdani, and I didn't see anything from Cuomo that was positive in terms of like, hey, I'm Andrew Cuomo and this is what I suggest. I didn't hear from him. I didn't see anything. Apparently it was like a PAC versus campaign issue and they couldn't get that straight or whatever. But I didn't hear him talking about anything. Meanwhile, this guy with like cute dimples on his cheeks is like coming and talking about the central issue. He chose one central issue, and like I don't see how you fail at that. You're running for mayor of New York. You're not running for like philosopher.
Exactly right. Okay. All right. Emma, it's been too long. We've been doing the show for a very long time. And now the main event, the main course, Hunter Biden. So Hunter Biden did a 3-hour interview with something called Channel 5 News, which is a left-wing news on YouTube, very popular. They've got 3 million or so followers, and there's some humor involved, but it's mostly just young lefties talking about the news. And they've clearly have a fan in Hunter. He did an interview for 3 hours. It was the most entertaining 3 hours of media content I've consumed all year. It was some of the highlights, as Hunter says, birds are not real. He said he smoked Parmesan cheese he picked out of the carpet. He admits to trolling over the Wuhan lab, suggesting that perhaps he had made money off the Wuhan lab, and which he had floated. He admitted that was a joke. He said he wasn't the chief of staff. He said that he almost died in a pool. He described crack cocaine as elevated coke. He took full credit for the freeing of Leonard Peltier, who had been convicted of killing FBI agents. He's fully on board with Saint Abrego Garcia. He gave a pretty substantial history of race in America, which I learned quite a bit during that.
Me too.
He suggested that the laptop might not have existed, which was an unbelievable drive-by. He had drive-bys on Steve Bannon, drive-bys on Rudy Giuliani, drive-bys on the bird flu, drive-bys on your friend Miranda Devine. Yep. He announced he was a professor. He drive-by on Jared Kushner. And he basically acted as though the laptop from hell was not about his business dealings with the Ukrainians and the Chinese. They were about him with shirtless pictures. And that was really the whole point. I could go on and on, but there's some highlights. I mean, he's just torching George Clooney, torching the Pod Save America podcast bros. It completely confirmed to me, and then I'll throw it to you, Emma, Joe Rogan and Tucker's theory that the best conversations are just 2 hours and 3 hours long, because it was peak entertainment for me. Maybe I'm just of a certain age and a certain demo, but that worked for me. It worked for me. And absolutely, Hunter Biden should be the next Stephen Colbert. He should get his own talk show. Whatever the guy wants, he's the only Democrat I care about. I don't care about John Fetterman. I care about Hunter Biden. He's my guy, and he always has been. Emma Jo.
Totally agree. I mean, obviously we agree on this. We've talked about it so many times, how much we love Hunter, how cool he is. And that was it was like full Hunter on full display. I loved it. It was actually more than I've ever seen of Hunter in one conversation.
Me too.
I don't think I've never done an interview that long before. And it made me love him more and more every passing minute. He's such a fascinating character. And I'm not being ironic or tongue-in-cheek when I say this. I actually do think so. He's super fascinating. I felt captivated the entire time. Again, like maybe it's because I obviously have a lot of like knowledge about him and have kind of been like obsessed for 5 years. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just found him like super interesting. First of all, the thing that struck me about him was that he's super anti-establishment.
Yes.
He literally doesn't give a shit. He was dunking on Republicans. He was dunking on Democrats even harder. Without though like going right wing particularly or left wing, I guess particularly, like he was literally just kind of being an iconoclast in every single thing that he was saying. He was defending the virtues of drugs.
Yes.
Even going so far as to say that crack cocaine is probably safer than alcohol.
Yes. Crack cocaine better than crack because it's more pure. I'm sorry, but crack cocaine better than coke because more pure.
Yeah, exactly.
And both, I guess, are better than alcohol.
Yeah, and then like so that's just, like, he'll be like super like he's such a cultural icon. He was like he'll go super deep into politics, then he's going super deep into social studies and like history. He obviously actually knows his stuff really well. There were certain things that I was Googling as he was saying them to see like, is he just like saying things or like, is this true? And he was right. Everything that at least I looked up that he was talking about, he was right about. He has this amazing and like vast knowledge base of all kinds of different topics, and then and academic topics for that matter. And then he'll get into this whole deep thing about drugs and like the composition of drugs and like how you make them. But then he's like, no, I'm not gonna like teach you how to make crack, but like he knows how to make crack. Like this has got to be the most interesting guy. And the thing that I find like there's another thing too that I find really interesting about watching him, which is like his psychology is super weird. So he will like straight up lie about the laptop story. He will omit huge details. He will switch around dates of times that are covered in the story, times or events that were covered in the reporting, things that happened in the reporting. He will glaze over or ignore, and it shows that like there's something weird going on. He's deeply unfamiliar with the reporting and gets major facts about it and basic facts about it wrong. And it makes me wonder too, because he is so smart. He's clearly so smart. I wonder, like, I don't think he's lying. Like, I realized in this interview that I don't think he's lying. I think that something is going on for him where he cannot like tolerate it. So he's just kind of like almost like I think he's like lobotomized the part of his brain that has this information and has just moved it away because I don't think he's lying. I think he's genuinely doing something weird.
Yeah, there's a performance art element as always with Hunter because he is clearly very high intelligence, and there's no way, as I've said a million times, there's no way you could function and do international deals all over the world and be able to do this while you're on benders over and over again.
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but
please.
There was one moment too that nobody circulated on Twitter that stunned me. That was the most important thing and the most remarkable thing of the whole thing, which was when he finally, 2 hours in, after talking about the laptop for over an hour at least, finally acknowledges the Burisma thing, and he gives like a full-throated defense of it that sounds totally legit and almost had me convinced.
Yeah, well, this is where he's very convincing in terms of his conversation, but he has some tells that I was disappointed a couple times. There are a couple times where I was just elated. I mean, his torching of George Clooney because it was so obvious. I said this at the time on the show, and I'm sure you heard it, which is when they were acting like it was evidence of dementia that he couldn't recognize George Clooney. Who cares about George Clooney? Like, I couldn't necessarily pick out George Clooney. I don't know. I don't care about George Clooney. That's not evidence of dementia that I can't recognize George Clooney if you're at a massive function and it's dark and everyone's shaking your hand. And they were acting, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson were acting like that was some sort of big giveaway that Biden couldn't be president. Because I don't recall that in the Constitution. Doesn't know Clooney like as one of the facts that you need to satisfy in order to be president. And so he pushed back on that really hard. He also reported that George Clooney blew up Tenacious D, which is Jack Black's band, which I've been listening to since high school, because Kyle Gass, the guitarist, who's a virtuoso guitarist, who said that Trump basically should get assassinated, and it was Clooney who called it in to Jack Black and said, you got to destroy the band. So that was really interesting. So there's some real reportage going on by Hunter in this, but he's got the Borat shtick down so well because he talked about the art grift so literally. And I know it's a grift. I explain this in Breaking Biden, one of my favorite sections of the book, where I go through how he paints with alcohol-based paint. He paints with a crack pipe. He literally uses a crack pipe to paint. It's all very high-level, high-intelligence trolling, the whole grift. And he treats it like it's dead serious, like he needs the art, he needs the painting, and he's just putting himself out there, and anyone who judges him is really the bad guy. And he does this so sincerely, you almost would would believe him, which of course you can't. It's all a lie. So it's just really next level stuff. And
Well, that's the thing.
I would just
And I actually want
go
to
ahead.
ask you this because, like, yeah, the art part. There's the art part, and then there's the laptop from hell part and slash business dealing. Like he talks about how no, it was just UNESCO. I mean, I'll tell you, like, and you, I'm sure you have it too. You have the entire hard drive. I never saw UNESCO. I never saw the World Food Program. I never saw a single thing about either of those projects that he claims was consuming his time completely, and that Burisma and China, I mean, he didn't even bring them up. He made it sound like the laptop only covers and spans UNESCO, his time working on the board of UNESCO and the World Food Program.
Yes.
I didn't even know that. But he says that so convincingly. And then he also says the painting thing where he's like, what the hell? Like, I was in recovery. I didn't have a job. I needed a hobby. I needed something to, basically kind of work through whatever I'm going through with. And I chose art. I always loved art. And he says that, like, again, so convincingly. And I I I mean, obviously both are lies. Obviously both are lies. But I can't sense a liar in him, which makes me like that's why I was saying like there is this weird psychological
Yeah.
thing going on where I
Uh-huh.
don't know if he's consciously lying. And I would love your take on that because that would take effort.
No, he's got it down so well, whatever his shtick is, and right down to the venue he picked. I mean, this interviewer was a total idiot, and he got a 3-hour mega platform on YouTube. All these clips are getting cut up and shared, designed for virality. He clearly scripted some of these lines. He did the thing. It kind of reminded me of when Tucker will be talking and make total sense for 2 hours, and then he'll throw out that there actually might be aliens in Mariana Trench, and you're like, what? And then did he just say that? And then all of a sudden you're down a rabbit hole and you're compelled and you're finding yourself drawn to the content. He does that stuff where he's like saying how birds aren't real, and he just throws it out there and then he moves on, and it just
If he were making fun of himself.
Yeah, it's just really amazing. Just the performance art is just so good. I did want to get your take on one thing.
Do you think he knows he's lying is basically my question, because I'm not sure.
So one thing that was interesting is he kind of went after John Paul Mac Isaac, the laptop repair shop guy, and was picking on him. And he was sort of implying the laptop wasn't real. Like, what is a laptop? Some sort of existential, you're in college, undergraduate philosophy question, raising it that way. Yeah, well, right. So, but this is where I want to get your take, because you had kind of led me to the conclusion. I forget if you had said it first or if I'd drawn it from your reporting, but the laptop was a cry for help, that he had dropped it off there hoping he would get caught and someone would help him.
Yeah, this was super,
Yeah, and he did not give that impression at all from this interview. He gave it like this was basically identity theft by some weirdo, and I'm a pure victim here. And I was a little bit surprised by that because there's no real nuance on it.
Well, that's what I mean when I say, like, it was, like, fascinating to me to watch somebody obviously, like, almost, like, completely compartmentalizing and dissociating from a story that he must know, and many obvious elements of the story that he either denied or pretended didn't exist, that make what he's saying wrong. So, like, for instance, like, he's like, "Oh, if Mac Isaac wanted to get in touch with me, he could have just called me. And Wilmington is such a small town.
Yeah, he could have gone to a bar and found someone who knew me.
Got my number. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Mac Isaac had your number and called you like 15 times, and you didn't pick up the laptop for like 3 or 6 months. I don't remember which one, but it was months that you left it there, which was why Mac Isaac had it as surrendered in the first place. And then he did not call Rudy Giuliani to tell Rudy Giuliani somehow that he had your laptop. He called the FBI, and the FBI collected the physical computer, which is why he says there's no laptop. It's because the laptop is with the FBI, which John Paul Mac Isaac gave them. And again, like, Rudy doesn't have it. Like, the reason Rudy has it is because John Paul Mac Isaac, basically Hunter, just to refresh everybody's memory, Hunter basically surrenders it because he doesn't pay for the service and never picks it up. So, so he surrendered it. Mac Isaac knows that it's Hunter Biden's laptop and knows that it's super sketchy. So he calls the FBI and gives it to the FBI. And then he thinks that that's kind of it. Like, he just goes on with his life. Then fast forward like 6 months after that, the perfect phone call impeachment happens of Trump, the first term. Trump gets
Sure.
the first time he was impeached was over the phone call with Ukraine, where they were claiming it was a quid pro quo. What was that about? It was about Ukraine investigating corruption of Americans in Ukraine. And obviously Hunter Biden was like the key character in that. And so the Democrats like spazzed out and said, oh, Trump is trying to target Joe Biden, his political opponent. So Hunter was kind of the center of the first impeachment. So John Paul Mac Isaac is watching the first impeachment thinking, oh, wow, like Hunter Biden's laptop from my repair shop is going to come into evidence because it's exculpatory for the president in his impeachment. And it doesn't. So John Paul Mac Isaac then freaks out, gets paranoid, and thinks that the FBI is crooked or hiding something because he knows that they are hiding something. And so he calls Rudy Giuliani, not because he thinks Rudy Giuliani is like, he's trying to call an operative. He's calling Rudy Giuliani because, again, during the impeachment, Rudy was Trump's lawyer. So he's calling Trump's lawyer. Because he knew that the FBI was concealing evidence that he knew existed because he gave it to them. And Hunter must know this. Another thing, too, that Hunter kind of tries to allude to when he talks about, like, the alleged, like, supposed, like, theoretical laptop or whatever, he alludes to it being tampered with. But that, in order to believe that, and I remember we dealt with this when I was at Breitbart, and we were trying to figure out how to write about what he was talking about because it's so delusional and weird. In order for this to have been tampered with or fabricated or whatever, you have to ignore the fact that, first of all, in order to validate the reporting in the first place at the New York Post, we had to call the people. We didn't have any forensic expert or whatever. It was way more analog than that. We just called the people CC'd on the emails and said, like, hey, you're CC'd on this email. I'm going to read it to you. Can you tell me if it sounds familiar? That was the first thing that would invalidate the theory that this laptop is somehow fabricated. The second thing that happened that was very public that Hunter would absolutely know about and remember is that Tony Bobulinski came out and detailed everything that the Post had reported on and gave background on it and elaborated on it because he was on those emails and in those deals. So again, like, what Hunter says is so casually, like, talking about, oh, like, maybe it did exist or maybe it didn't. And it's like, what are you talking about? You would have had to have, like, deleted years of your memory in order to make that claim, but he does it so casually.
Sure, exactly. And it's exactly, that's why he did the casual acting like the art was real, which of course it wasn't. And then the laptop point that you made a crucial point there was that he left it for months on end. It's my mom had to drop off her laptop over the weekend and she thought she was going to get it back Sunday and the guy wanted it until Monday. And she reached out to me like in a panic, like, I'm not gonna have one more day without my laptop. And Hunter is in deep proximity to huge power structures and is all sorts of illegal, incriminating stuff that's documented on the laptop. And he's like, nah, I'm just going to leave it for months. And just obviously there's more to it than that. And he makes it seem very normal, like a relatively normal thing that's there. And the watching him operate, it's so interesting. I'll tell you, Emma, when I wrote Breaking Biden, I read everything I could get my hands on about the Bidens, and I intentionally avoided Hunter's book. I felt like I don't know what it would do to my interpretation because I felt like it would be some sort of a disingenuous sales pitch for something. Maybe I'll read it eventually, but it was one thing I avoided, and I'm glad that I held out to really get to know Hunter to a deeper degree until yesterday, which was great. We got some clips. I want to play some of these clips. Here we go. Let's hear Hunter. I don't even know what these all are, but you and Missy put your heads together on these.
Talking about why the Post got banned too. That was wild. That was so
okay.
wild.
So we got a few of them. Let's hear. We got Hunter on. This is allegedly on the debate.
I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, and the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times. Yeah. He's 81 years old. He's tired as They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
Joe Biden's a terrific sleeper. That's another tell. It's a little Easter egg for us. Joe Biden's great at sleeping. We all know this. So he was on Ambien. They wouldn't put on Ambien before a debate, and he just says, yeah, just put him on Ambien right before the debate. Send him out there. Debate from 100 million people. It's absurd.
Ambien has taken so many of our people. Joe Biden, Roseanne Barr.
Yeah. I did not personally, I with the Ambien thing, I don't take it because it sounds very addictive, but it sounds nice. I'm a terrible sleeper. I don't know. Maybe I'd like it, but I don't want to like it too much. I feel like if I liked it, then that would be a problem. All right, we got some more
opinions, but him, and everybody around him don't have to be nice. Number one,
guess who he's talking about here? It's got to be Clooney, right? It's like we're cutting in right in the middle of the clip, but it's got to be Clooney based off of my recollection. Here we go. Let's see some more.
Agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a actor. He is a like opinions. By the way, and God bless him. You know
and what? God bless him.
He supposedly treats his friends really well.
Him,
you know,
God bless
buys
him.
them things, and he's got a really great place in Lake Como, and he's great friends with Barack.
Emma, God bless him. He's got a great house. Summer house is terrific.
F him. But God bless the guy. No, like he actually like this was when he went full scorched earth on the Democratic Party. This is actually like around the time that I stopped listening. Where he was talking about how he like really let it. He was talking about how Amal Clooney was like a big Palestine activist, and George Clooney was really just mad at Joe Biden because Joe Biden wouldn't like go along with like arresting Netanyahu or something, and like he absolutely destroyed George Clooney. I can't imagine why they didn't deploy. Like, this is the thing that I don't get is Hunter Biden in this. First of all, Hunter Biden in this episode is the Lex Joe Rogan. He is exactly what they've been looking for and paying like billions of dollars to find. He's conversational, interesting, has a broad base of shallow knowledge, and is cool and not worried about offending anybody and is offending everybody. And he's just blowing up all the most annoying people in the Democratic Party who have their positions just because the establishment kind of anointed them there, but still holds, obviously, like Democratic ideology. Like, I just think there's something so perfect about him that they've been trying to make in a lab and has been right in front of us all along.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's do more.
Friends with Barack Obama. You, what do you have to do with anything? Why do I have to listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his life to the service of this country and decide that you, George Clooney, are going to take out basically a full-page ad in the New York Times to me and James Carville, who hasn't run a race in 40 years, and David Axelrod, who had one success in his political life, and that was Barack Obama. And that was because of Barack Obama, not because of David Axelrod and David Plouffe and all of these guys and the Pod Save America guys who were junior speechwriters in, on Barack Obama's Senate staff who have been dining out on the relationship with him for years, making millions of dollars. The Anita Dunns of the world, who's made $40, $50 million off the Democratic Party. They're all going to insert their judgment over a man who has figured out, unlike anybody else, how to get elected to the United States Senate over 7 times. How to pass.
Have you ever heard a conservative cook the left like that?
Yeah, like
Emma, in a row. That was deep frying. It was just cooking. That was they get the beef tallow up there to Robert Kennedy approved temperatures, and just completely soak them in it. Unbelievable. I got some more.
How to pass more legislation than any president in history. How to have a better midterm election than anybody in history, and how to garner more votes than any president that has ever run. And they're going to replace their judgment for his. Not to mention, who's Jake Tapper's audience? Jake Tapper,
my mom or something. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. For real though, I don't even think it's your mom anymore.
No.
By the numbers, what influence does Jake Tapper have over anything? He has the smallest audience on cable news, and beyond that, I think that the book is right now on Amazon that he put out. I mean, his ratings just went to after he put the book out. You know, they did a 2-week infomercial for it. I mean, it was such a money grab, such a disservice to everybody that he serves with. I
love this guy. I do. It's the some of it's ironic, Emma, but some of it is not ironic. He is genuinely the most interesting person on the left.
Nothing is ironic about this.
There is nothing close. There's nothing close.
I just find him like so fascinating to observe. I find him such a fascinating character. I'm so dying to hang with him. It's so too bad that he doesn't drink anymore because I would really love to do that.
He might do crack with you though, because remember, crack's better than alcohol. I learned that.
Yeah, and apparently, like, I could actually make it in like a convenience store, according to Hunter, which I would again like. Why didn't he elaborate on that? Like, who cares? He has no master now. But yeah, like he's just so cool. He's so interesting. I think the Democratic Party, if they were smart, if I was consulting them, I would tell them, get this guy, find a way to make amends with him somehow. If there is
figure
a
it
way,
out.
obviously he's just super upset about his father and what went down between the Democratic Party and the main Democrats and his father. If there is a way to make nice with him, do that. If there isn't a way to make nice with him, call every single podcaster in any corner of obscurity that you can find and just invite him on, and don't say that the Democratic Party was the one who gave them the idea. But just, oh my God, he's so much. Who else is out there? Hank Johnson playing his guitar?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is right. Or AOC with her and Mamdani with their fake socialist shtick. I mean, this is so much more compelling.
Exactly. 100%. I mean, he's the best thing the Democratic Party has going on. And Chris Cillizza, who's like this cable news nerd who I think doesn't even have a job anymore and like now has a Substack, but still has this kind of CNN mentality, was tweeting like outrage that why would Hunter think anybody wants his opinion and why would Hunter do this? And I'm like, he is literally exactly what they're trying to find through their focus groups.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they need.
Yeah. And in terms of, I bet you this would resonate more with those young men that went for Trump and are probably vulnerable for us next election. This type of stuff, I think would work. I mean, but they can't do it because that's an admission that they failed, and they won't admit that trusting the Pod Save America guys to lead their party was a bad move, and they're getting no dubs over it. So it's just really, really. It's just great. It's just great content.
There was one L that I think Hunter took, which I was texting you about. I was like rage texting you about, which was that he was kind of making everything about his addiction, which I thought he like really overplayed, and actually overplayed it to the extent that it forced me to realize something that I had forgotten about, but actually written about on Breitbart a while ago, which is that he is disrespecting addicts by putting everything, all the scandal and all the accusations against him and all the speculation about what he's doing, by attributing that to his addiction. He went a little too hard on that. He always does that. It's a tick that he has or a tendency that he has that's super dumb, doesn't work, doesn't translate. It especially doesn't translate because so many people in the country do deal with addiction or have a close family member that does, where you know that that's just nonsense, that obviously, he wasn't being hounded over his problems with addiction. He also, the New York Post was banned from Twitter because they were posting nudes of him that were taken while he was under the influence. Again, like kind of trying to like just say that all of this was just all about his addiction. He leans too hard into that. It's not convincing. It's not compelling. Again, I can't tell if he believes it. I'm really trying to figure that out. I almost want to like rewatch the footage just to see if I can figure out if he knows he's lying. But it's so fake and it's super cheap because of course that's not what it's about. And stop trying to like stop addict slandering because that's not what this is about.
I feel like he did a better job of selling Joe Biden than Joe ever could. I think that he called out a lot of parts of Democrat establishment that deserve to be called out and are more powerful coming from committed left-wing guy. I think his Borat shtick, where you can't tell when he's telling the truth and when he's trolling, is just it's super high level. So anyway, I just hope he does more. I hope he gives us more content, and he should take over the Tonight Show or the Late Show, whatever it is. He should be in charge of it. And he's a committed lefty, though. In attitude wise, he's more populist, but he had a lot of stuff, a lot of self-hating white stuff, a lot of getting mad at white people. He's some immigration rants that were very pro unlimited immigration. So he's not for us politically, but just attitude wise. So what a breath of fresh air Hunter Biden is.
He's definitely the best thing. I mean, we don't agree with him probably on anything, maybe a couple things, but he's definitely a Democrat. But he's the best thing they got is basically the moral of the story. Yeah. Super interesting guy, super smart guy, funny, and unhinged in like the most entertaining way. I could watch him all day.
All right. Yeah, me too. Emma, we'll cut it off there because I don't like the shows getting too long. I know we could do more, and we should. I even got more Hunter clips I'm leaving on the cutting room floor, but you're free to bring those when you host for me next week.
Don't worry. I'll pick up the ball.
Okay, Emma, where do we get your podcast now?
Yeah, so I'm at Two-Way. You can catch that on YouTube, Thursdays, 4 p.m. The show leans heavily left, so you can watch the libs own me for an hour. And it's a good time. Hopefully we'll be doing it more often than once a week after Labor Day. So look out for that.
Yeah, so Two-Way TV, that's Mark Halperin's thing that he's doing. And so check that out. And a listener on this show sometime next week. We haven't decided on what day, but it'll happen. Thanks to Misty. Thanks to all of you in the audience. Thanks for listening and watching.